What is going on, sports card fiends? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, and today we are here with a video on my defense of soccer cards. Personally, I'm someone that, likes to collect all types of sports, and soccer cards have been kind of a thing that's been flowing into my collection pretty decently lately. I've been having a good old time with it. I mean, these are just mail days from recently. Josh Sargent, just Timothy Weah, Jao Felix, Donruss, U.S. men's national team, just everything. If people want to be dismissive, that is fine because, it allows us to make more money on the soccer cards if it is a decent thing long term. So I'll get into talking about what I think people are basically roasting it for and why I don't even really think it deserves to be roasted. But we'll check out the 2014 Ronaldo Prisms PSA 10 just because that gives us a good base to look at and why people might be roasting it. So let's look at the 3-month graph. As you can see here, this is essentially what people are roasting soccer cards for, because soccer cards were insanely hyped for a good bit of time and then went up to an astronomical price and then dropped back down. And people laugh at the big drop that happened. But realistically, this wasn't with every type of card. This was mostly just with the 2014 Prism, and understandably so when this stuff has jumped this much in a short amount of time. And like I've done a messy Prism versus rookie card video, and there was not this sort of jump with the rookie cards of many, many players. So it's essentially just Prism. And I think that's just a lot of people that are just getting into soccer that don't really know what they're doing. And that's just where they start. And it didn't work out for them. Maybe long term, they can still make some money on these cards. But, initially, whenever there's a wave of demand and then that wave of demand follows with not another wave of demand, there's going to be a drop off. That's how that works. So I'm not surprised by this. There's plenty of other factors that play a role in this big old drop. The first one being that the Champions League matches were played in this time from this big old jump. So Juve was knocked out in this instance, but I'm sure people were buying it at a, kind of premium price just to get in on Juve or Ronaldo in case anything did happen. Now, immediately after, it dipped a little bit, stayed up there, and then continued to dip overall. We'll see a lot of the same thing going on with the Messi card. However, it stays at kind of a higher price for a little longer because he stayed in the Champions League a little longer. So here's the initial jump right here. They end up winning, and then it kind of continues a little bit more. They lose. It doesn't necessarily drop as quick as you'd think, but the drop does initially end up coming and continues to drop a bit more. Now, sure, that's a big drop. Now, what's the factors of this drop? Some people think market manipulation. Sure, there's market manipulation probably everywhere in the sports card realm. People shill bidding and people having fake sales. So you always have to be on the lookout for that, not only in soccer cards. In addition to that, obviously, both of these guys lost in the Champions League and got knocked out. So their prices would have a natural increase whenever they're going into their games, and then afterwards they would decrease. Granted, pretty heavily here, but still. And then this is a 10th year Prism, so I feel like people aren't as attached to this. Rookie cards, people would be more willing to hold on to long term, even in a downturn. But with these later Prisms, if you're just trying to flip them, whether for instance you take a 4 to 6 times your flip and sell up here, or whether you take a triple to quadruple and sell it down here, you're still probably going to be willing to part with it. And that's what I kind of want to point out is during this time, if you would have invested in this card on the beginning of July, it's $520. If you sold it right now, it's almost $2,000. That's still 4 times your money in 2 months. So for people to kind of scoff and just laugh at people that, maybe were involved in this dip, if you weren't buying at the absolute peak, you still made a ton of money on these cards in 2 months' time when they only had 1 or 2 games each. And that's about it. There's not that much going on with soccer. This is the dead time of soccer. And soccer's going to kick back off here in the next month. And soccer's more of a year-round sport than many other sports are. So you're going to have a long stretch of probably upwards trends throughout soccer because action is actually taking place. So while this may be a big dip, I mean, overall, it is still a significant increase overall. If you're buying up here, you're probably a little bit of a bandwagon and just kind of a hype beast, and that's okay. You can still make money even being a hype beast somehow, but I don't think that the entire soccer market should be judged off of some of the most hype beast prisms during a hype time. That's just not a good way to judge a market totally. And keep in mind, like I said, in 2 months' time, you could have made 4 times your money on both of the prisms for Lionel Messi and Ronaldo. And if we go compare that to Luka, someone that has shown at a young age that he is meant for the big stage, basically in 2 months, you are able to not even double your money. If you bought back here in beginning of June, little over $700, almost $800. Right now, below $1,500. You could not have even doubled your money in that time. And basketball is a market that's well established. So, basketball, you could have doubled on a player that's shown he is the man. Compared to a guy that has been a GOAT and will continue to be a GOAT, and those have gone up 4x. And with Luka, this really shows that the market for sports cards is not efficient, and it is all about eyeballs. Because like here, obviously this is when Luka had his insane performances and really started to shine, and from there, like you know about all you need to know about Luka to know that he's going to be the man. And continuing forward, he continues to prove that, and yet his prices just keep dipping. And that's because, people had their eyeballs on him at this beginning stage, and over time, people just want to get out of the basketball market before it all ends. But I don't really understand it, because at the end of the day, if you were invested in Luka cards, obviously if you're like a flipper, you want to get your money out just so you can go to a different sport during the off season. But if you're legitimately invested in Luka, how you could only take a 2 times return when this dude's shown that he is almost a god of basketball and could carry a team to almost past one of the locks of the Western Conference. It's nuts to me that people would be selling this and be perfectly fine with that. Sure, it will have its bounce back one day, but what this is meant to show you is that in this time, a great card of a great young prospect doubled, while in soccer, an established player 10th year card has gone up 4x, and people kind of scoff at it, and it doesn't make much sense to me. And another example as to how the sports card market is just inefficient and all about eyeballs, we'll look at the Mahomes Optic base PSA 10 on a 3-month graph. Actually, we'll go back to a year graph, and as we can see, if I throw it up on the big screen, this is about playoff time, getting close to it. $200 for maybe $150, $200 for a PSA 10. And then by the time Mahomes has won a Super Bowl and people are kind of hyped about it and the card market is doing well, it has only doubled. So, people, and then at that point, a month after, it had gone down to $300. So if you had bought in before any of this happened, you would have only made twice your money back on a young prospect winning a Super Bowl and just showing the world that he has what it takes again. And once the Super Bowl happens, as you can tell, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a huge bump in price. Like, sure, he went from 200, 250 to 300, 350. It's not the huge bump that I feel like a lot of people expect out of these cards. And this is obviously someone that won it. People that aren't winning these Super Bowls are going to dip, and you don't want to take that risk when the reward is so minimal. Now, obviously, long term, this has worked out pretty well if you ended up holding on to it, because I feel like people just finally have started to catch on to the fact that this is pretty insane, and the sports card hobby has been growing ever since. And then his contract kind of is the reason that this ended up kicking off. But what this is meant to show you is that even if it turns out the way you think it will, or the way that you hope it will, it still doesn't mean that you're in for big profits. It doesn't mean that there's going to be a line of people just waiting to buy those cards, because they know that the off season is coming and they're just going to have to sit on them for a long, long time. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the big returns that you're hoping for. So what these comparisons were for is that obviously soccer cards, even with Prism 10th year cards, are seeing a larger percentage increase than something like Luka, who is now a proven youngster. And I feel like that alone shows the opportunity, and in addition to that, the eyeballs are as important as almost anything, even more important than results, it seems like, with Mahomes, just people, and with Luka, just people seeing those guys do what they can do and doing it on a big stage is very, very important, which brings me to the idea that soccer is going to have that big stage this year and next year. The Euros are in 2021. Next year, and then the World Cup is in 2022. And if you're American, there is the 2026 World Cup that is hosted in America. So, well, it's tri-hosted with Canada and Mexico as well, but we will be hosting a ton of games, and ESPN and a lot of these bigger networks are really starting to pick up on the fact that the U.S. men's national team is getting better and better. So I think coverage is going to be growing here, and thus interest as well, along with eyeballs. An example of this is someone I've been stocking up a ton on lately, and that is Timothy Weah. He is a winger for Lille, and he is a prospect for the U.S. men's national team as well. So if we go down to the sold listings, we check out an optic hollow. As you can see, there's one right there for $40. However, $30 to $35 is probably more along the lines of what it is right now. And this is someone that he just recently had become fit for Lille. He was, dealing with hamstring injuries and has dealt with them for a decent while. So without even doing anything, he has not scored a goal. He's only come on as a sub in his last game for 20 minutes, which is, hopeful, but he's shown nothing, literally nothing. And comparing this to where his prices were just a decent while ago, and so going back to basically early July, again, 2 months ago, you could have gotten, and I did get, 3 optic hollows, 6 regular optics, and then I think that's like 10 Donruss, maybe 8, 9, something like that. But you could have gotten all of that for $30 to $40. So now, not to toot my own horn, but this is probably close to $200 worth. And that just shows the genuine interest that has just increased during what is a perfect offseason. Nothing's going on. It is, U.S. men's national team has had no friendlies since, maybe February, January, I think. So there's literally no hype. Nothing's going on in the sport. Yet there is so much hype behind these cards. And I feel like that alone should show you what you need to see from this market, that people are moving into it. People are getting excited for it. And to think that it's just going to suddenly not be there next year when the Euros are going on, or in 2 years when the World Cup's going on and we have a promising young squad. The reason I say we is because obviously a lot more card collectors are probably American. So it's just tough, man. People can look at, basketball cards have gone up 2x, maybe some football cards have gone up 4 to 5x, but in that same time, soccer has been absolutely killing it. And these guys and a lot of these other mainstay like rookie cards have not seen the dip that Prism has seen. Like I was showing earlier with these optic hollows, like they're up to $30-$40 now, and at no point were they 50, 60. Like they haven't dropped. They've steadily kept rising. And so for that reason, I feel like the Messi and Ronaldos are kind of anomalies because they were in the Champions League. They were kind of hyped cards anyways. There's probably more coming back from PSA, and they could have been market manipulated a little bit. And who knows? But at the end of the day, people that still held onto those cards for 2 months made 4x whatever they put into it. So yeah, that's my defense of soccer cards. I don't really understand why people are hating on them so much. And like I've said it before, this is all happening during the off season when literally nothing is going on. Once people start scoring goals in meaningful matches that people have eyeballs on, like I said, eyeballs are the card market. This is what people just buy with. They don't anticipate that. They just buy off what they see in hopes that it just keeps going. And is that the right strategy? Who knows? But that's just how the card market is. And none of these soccer players are getting eyeballs right now. They're all not playing. So the fact that they can do this well while not playing is just nuts to me. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like. Anything you want to tell me down below, feel free to. I love talking in the comments to anyone. And obviously over on my Instagram page too, you can check that out in the description down below at Cutting Edge Cards without the G in cutting. But that is going to be it for me today. So hopefully you guys have a wonderful day, and peace.